Hi there, welcome in, people. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I was working on something behind the scenes for Lily and Jack, just following up on that T-shirt, that fake merchandise stuff. And then I was just about to go live and I realised that Mouse was actually in the bed under here and he was cold, so I had to go find him an extra blanket. So again, the live stream has been delayed for Mouse's benefit, but it's really damn cold here, and apparently he likes being part of the live stream as opposed to when he normally is out in the hallway on top of the heater. So back to Maddie today, and welcome in Rita, Deborah, Hugging Demons, welcome in everybody else who's in here that I can't actually see who you are, but that's cool. Welcome in Camilla if you are in here. I will just say that. Before I jump in, I will just point out, you can see the scrolling thing on the bottom of the screen there. Case documents for Maddie's case are available in my Patreon, and my Patreon is free to join, and it is also free to download any documents. So the bulk of the documents from Maddie's case are in there. There's a lot of smaller files that I haven't uploaded, although I think some of them are included in the 1,000-page document anyway, so they're probably still accessible. Sometime in the future, maybe I'll find enough time to get the rest of the documents just uploaded, put them in there, and then they're just all there regardless. But yeah, so if you did want access to the actual documents in Maddie's case, I will upload them for anyone who wants to grab them. As for any of the raw interviews, any of the news media, turns out there's 3 Maddie Soto playlists, and again, this is something that I need to fix because I've ended up with 2 Maddie Soto playlists. One has got all the stuff that I did previously before Stephan Sterns was convicted, and the other one has only got a handful of things in it. So I'm thinking, I'm not sure how I ended up with 2 playlists, but I need to transfer all that into the main playlist. But there's also a case file playlist like I have with Jack and Lily and like I have with Mackenzie Sharilla, which has just got all the raw interviews, media interviews, all that sort of thing. So that's also accessible on my channel. So I'm presuming that a lot of people that are in here know Maddie's case by now. This is the 3rd week in a row when I've been coming back to Maddie. I'm thinking I might switch it to actual Mondays for people in the Northern Hemisphere, because I think it's causing confusion for some people for me to call it Maddie Mondays when it's Monday here for me, but for everyone else it's still Sunday. So as of next week, I will actually make it Maddie Mondays, which will be my Tuesday, which is still confusing, but probably less confusing for most. So Maddie's case, just a quick recap for anyone who is not familiar. Madeline Soto on the 22nd of February 2024 turned 13. On the 25th of February, her grandmother threw a birthday party for her at her place, which was family and a handful of Maddie's friends, and her mother Jenn didn't go because Jenn, welcome in Bonza, good to see you. And Maddie's aunt dropped her home. It was, I believe, around 8:30. Stephan Sterns turned up about 10-15 minutes later for a week-long visit, having been living down with his parents. And according to Jenn, she came home around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and she did interact with Maddie, did spend some time with Maddie, but I still don't believe that. And then the following morning, the story is that Stephan drove Maddie to school because Jenn needed to sleep in. The reality is that Maddie was already deceased, with Stephan having strangled her sometime through the night. He then proceeded to drive around Orlando with Maddie deceased in the passenger seat of his vehicle for about 2 hours, and then he put her remains in the trunk of his vehicle, drove back to the townhouse and left her there for 4 hours in the trunk of the vehicle before disposing of her remains in a field. No, you're on the normal side. You should be able to see Hugging Demons. Rita and Deborah are over on the vertical, but Hugging Demons is in the horizontal, so you should be able to see them. Possibly, maybe. It gets confusing when you've got the different ones, that's for sure. Anyway, Maddie's remains were found, thankfully. Yeah, I think Demons is the only one in there with you at the moment. I think Rita and Deborah are in the horizontal. So it's kind of like divide and conquer. I'm not sure. Yeah, Maddie was found a few days later, thanks to a wonderful citizen who just happened to spot Stephan with his flat tire. Stephan was eventually charged over her murder and over a bunch of things that he had on his phone, thousands of videos and images. That's the very, very short Cliff Notes version. Yeah, Deborah, that's why you can't see any chats, because you're in the vertical at the moment, as is Rita, I believe. I must learn to put a link. I did it once and then I forgot. I've got to learn to put a link into the vertical before I start, so that if people end up in the vertical accidentally, they can bounce across, just use the link, because it's far more convenient than trying to find your way across. I know yesterday when I went to watch some of Justin's live, I ended up in the vertical, and it's just pain getting back through. Welcome in, Rose. Good to see you in here. Yep. Okay, so as I mentioned over the last couple of videos, my focus is on Jenn Soto. Sterns is locked up. It didn't feel like justice. He should not have been allowed to plead no contest. I've said that a million times, and I will continue to say it forever, because it did not feel like justice. Meanwhile, Jenn has not had any consequences. And yet, because of Jenn, Maddie's not here. Had it not been Jenn who decided to send Maddie upstairs to the guest room with Stephan so she could have a good night's sleep, this wouldn't have happened. So Jenn was never there for Maddie, even before that night. And it seems like she's just walked away from it. No consequences. And I know there's a lot of people who would really like to see full justice for Maddie, who would like to see Jenn held accountable. There's definitely laws which would allow for her to be prosecuted. So I'm going to continue talking about Maddie. She was detached to the max. Poor Maddie. I really, really feel sad for her, what she went through. She deserved a better mother. She deserved better everything. She really did. It's just heartbreaking. It truly is. Anyway, so my goal is to keep the focus on Jenn Soto. Even if YouTube does, for some reason, decide to demonetize me every time I cover Maddie's case. Now, I don't mean like demonetize as in take away my monetization completely. What I mean is every time I do and this was happening when I was covering the case, like before Sterns was arrested. But it seems like now that I've come back to talking about Jenn, they're doing it again. Probably 9 out of 10 of anything that I put out for Maddie's case, they go, oh, yep, limited earning. We don't think it's suitable for advertisers. So, yeah, that happens, but I'm still going to keep talking about Maddie. Yep. Jenn is definitely going in the opposite direction. She will not see Maddie again. Not unless she has some sort of major come to Jesus moment. But I doubt it. No mother should do what she did to her child. It really feels like that. It really, really feels like there's someone somewhere doesn't want Jenn Soto locked up. So let's just hit any content creators who talk about Maddie's case so that they don't keep talking about Maddie's case. But I figure if I'm doing one live stream a week that brings in no income, if that is just keeping awareness out there for Maddie, I think that's well and truly worth it. I know so many of us got so emotionally invested in this case. So many of us fell in love with Maddie. I think it's just one of those things that it's important. It's one of those things that someone needs to keep speaking up. And just maybe down the track, the right people will pay attention. We can hope. Anyway, so this is the first interview that Jenn did. This is with Detective Acosta. And I was queuing it up last night. And I came across something that I had missed before. Yeah. It does seem that she's never going to get charged. It really does. I just wish that there was, something in the universe that would just turn around and say either Jenn Soto needs some serious karma her way, or, something needs to shift and someone needs to decide to prosecute. Because Maddie deserves better than this. Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. I think every content creator who's covered this case has been saying exactly that same thing, and I couldn't tell you how many times I've said that. It does my head in to think that Yeah. Oh, is this new, Grover? Is this new, or are you referring to this? Oh no, a mother arrested. Why is Jenn not being arrested? That's sorry. I kind of yeah, because the damage is done already. If the predator that you brought into your home, that you basically pimped your daughter out to, has meant that your daughter's no longer around, why would they arrest you then? Unreal. I'll have to look for that case. After this live stream, I'll certainly go looking because I want to have a look at that. Well, yes. When you've got a sheriff who is involved with illegal gambling, a sheriff who posts a photo on Instagram of Maddie in the field, just what can I say? Yeah, there will never be justice until Jenn is behind bars. 100%. Welcome in, good vibes, and thank you for the jewels. It's unfathomable. That immunity interview that Jenn did, there was nothing in that would have made a difference to Stephan's conviction. And in fact, she lied in that, so it shouldn't be relevant anyway. But it feels like either there's some sort of deal that was made in the background, or there's someone protecting her. Right, I'm going to bear with me for a sec. I want to write these two names down. Sabrina. Awesome, thanks for that. I'm going to look them up after the live stream. I have sent a message to Chelsea because I've looked up all the laws and stuff in terms of this dude that's selling the merchandise for Lily and Jack. God, that sounds so familiar, doesn't it? So I basically sent Chelsea a message saying, if you want me to, then I'll draft a cease and desist that they can send to the guy. So I'll be tackling that after the live stream, but definitely going to look into this. Okay, so a little bit more of Jenn's interview. And like I said, there's something, when I was queuing this up last night, there was something that I have missed. Oh, Sabrina Brown is the grandmother, also arrested. Wow. The mother is, hang on, so the mother is Kendrell Bowden. What state is that in? I'm guessing it's probably not Florida, because apparently Florida finds it acceptable for parents to do this sort of thing for their children. Anyway, so going on to back to this interview.
What time does she normally leave for school?
We usually leave around 8:50 at the latest.
Okay. What time does she have to be to school by?
Thanks for that, Grover. I'll definitely be looking that one up. Certainly, because it's something that I would like to do a compare and contrast with at the very least.
9:28 is when school starts.
Gotcha. And so I think you had said the previous night, you and Stephan had agreed that he was going to get and take her in the morning? Okay.
And they were going to stop at McDonald's and get breakfast, but she changed her mind last minute and did not want McDonald's.
Okay.
Now, bearing in mind that she did this interview the day after they reported Maddie missing, so this is actually the Tuesday, so even then it doesn't quite gel. But she kind of slipped up. She screwed up the narrative here because she said Maddie changed her mind last night and didn't want McDonald's. Now, given that clearly the night before, her and Stephan were off the show on rugs, to me, I think she's got, complete time blindness and probably still thinks it's the same day that she's reported Maddie missing. So I think there's a bit of leakage there. I think that's a big whoops. She's screwed up the narrative big time. Because according to the narrative, Maddie had actually the night before been quite keen about it. I'm not sure if it's this interview or another one, but you get one of the interviews where Jenn does this whole lovely, happy voice, and, Jenn's like, well, I said, wouldn't it be a nice thing if you did this, Maddie? So every other time, the narrative has been that they discussed it the night before and that Maddie decided when they got to Macca's that she didn't want to have it. So, yeah, big oops for Jenn. Big oops. Mega screw up. Yeah. You'd think that once he was sentenced, but I just don't know. She was an accessory. But not only that, she is guilty of, I think it's aggravated child abuse. Not just child abuse, aggravated child abuse. Because it's not just a failure to protect her daughter, it's her basically putting her daughter in harm's way, her making the choice that put her daughter in harm's way. So, I don't know why, unless Stephan has flipped and there's some reason why things haven't happened. But it's just not right. But yeah, that one bit there where she changed her mind last night and didn't want McDonald's screwed up the narrative big time, Jenn.
When'd you find that out?
When did I find that out? When Stephan called me around 10:18 in the morning, I had stepped out to go get blood work done. Mm-hmm. And he had just let me know that he just got back home from running a few errands. And that I asked, did you guys ever just stop at McDonald's? And he said, no, she changed her mind. He tried convincing her a few times, but she did not want McDonald's anymore.
And I know I played this bit last week. Okay, good luck with that, Bonza. Let me know how you go. I know I played this bit last week, but and now I got distracted. This whole thing of he rings her and her first question is like, did she still have McDonald's? On what planet are you going to think to ask that? Because there's not going to be doubt with a normal child. You're not going to even consider that question because no child is going to refuse grabbing McDonald's on the way to school. It does my head in every time I hear her say that.
What time did you leave the house yesterday in the morning? Or what time did you step out, rather?
I'm going to say around 9:30.
Seriously, yeah, you are so right, Teresa. She's so vague about everything else. But she reports Stephan's phone call as exactly 10:18. I know I had to walk away from it. It's taken me all this time to be able to come back and look at it. And it is painful to relive it. I still get emotional. But I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back and let Jenn Soto just live the rest of her life happily and we never see full justice for Maddie. So I'm going to be that thorn in her side that I'm going to go through all her interviews and I'm going to keep coming back to Maddie's case and keep highlighting that Jenn Soto should not be walking free. Maddie deserves better than this. The 10:18 or the 9:30, because I have to double check my timeline again. I think the 9:30 that she left a bit earlier or something. The thing that bugs me with this timeline and her being like, I left for my appointment at 9:30, the thing that really, really gets my goat with that is that Maddie didn't start school. Although I'm going to say yes, every time when she says, I'm going to say, there's a lie or a slight variation on the truth. That's for sure. It's one of her big tells. The thing that really bugs me with this whole, we organised Stephan was going to take Maddie to school. Well, Jenn got out of bed at 9:30, apparently. Maddie normally wouldn't start school till 9:28. She didn't need Stephan to be there. She could have got her lazy ass out of bed a bit before 9. Maddie could have got herself ready. Jenn could have just put on a pair of sunglasses to hide the fact that she wasn't wearing makeup. Maybe put on a baseball cap, drive Maddie to school, and then get herself ready for her appointment. Or better still, she could have changed the time of her appointment to a later time so she could actually take Maddie to school and then get herself organised. Yeah. I think a lot of us, Maddie's always going to be in so many hearts, I think. I do too. I think she helped Sterns. I think when he realised what he'd done, I honestly think that he went downstairs and told Jenn. The way they tell their narratives, it's a narrative that they concocted together. Stephan driving around with Maddie in the car for 2 hours before placing her in the trunk of the vehicle and going back to the townhouse before heading out later on. Someone has speculated that maybe his original plan, or their original plan, wasn't going to work, and he went back to the townhouse to talk to Jenn about it because he needed a different location. Because Jenn knows that area really well. She has a friend that lives over the road, a stone's throw from where they found Maddie's remains. She used to go hiking in that area. Well, I think it was more, I think Jenn just didn't want to get her hands dirty. Welcome in, Princess. I honestly think because Stephan never drove Maddie to school, never once. So I think they decided, Jenn was probably, I'm not doing this. You've got to fix your mistake. So they probably came up with it together that she would say she needed to sleep in. And she expected him to go and sort out the situation. Yeah, I wish it had have gone to trial and we got more answers. Because I think had it gone to trial, we would have learned a lot more about Jenn's involvement, in my opinion. Oh, wow. Oh, freaky. Yeah. I truly believe that was the goal. He was meant to take Maddie to one of those lakes, but he got a flat tire and he had to take her out of the trunk of the vehicle. So he put her under the bamboo. Maybe when he went back that night, the goal was to move her again, and for some reason he chose not to. Yeah. She never, ever showed any concern over Maddie being missing. She straight away jumped into protecting Sterns. Oh, yes, she did too. That's right. I'd forgotten about that. And she did actually mention gators. But you're so right, Princess. You've got this whole area. There's places around where they lived. But he had to drive all the way out to St. Cloud and then head down that road, which basically heads to all these different lakes. honestly, if it wasn't for that flat tire, this could have been Alligator Lake. It was, Deb. It's in a direct line from where he had the flat tire. Yeah. It's cold. It really is. How can a mother be like that? 100% it was divine intervention. Maddie hit that karma button so quickly. Honestly, the more I think about this case, the more angry I get that Jenn has not had to face consequences. Because one of the main goal of me going back over all this stuff with Jenn is to highlight all the things that show her involvement. All the things that show, at the very least, guilty knowledge. I was traumatized by that interview. I really was. When he asked her to kind of take on this detective role, and she's talking about dumping the body, and the Woody Allen comment, yep, she stuck with the script. Not only that, but whenever possible, she defended Stephan. Anytime there was a choice between Maddie or Stephan, she chose Stephan. And this is after he had done this to her daughter. Yeah, well, she lost Tyler's child support. But, given that she's now couch surfing with family, or it appears that way, probably not a problem for her because she's not paying her own way. I believe Tyler was paying child support, but I'm not sure for how long. Don't forget too, this is probably heading around trial time. When I took a closer look at Jenn's car, I figured out that that car is quite likely registered in, I think it's one of her parents, I think it's in Yolanda's name, because the registration doesn't match Jenn's birthday. It matches, I think, Yolanda's birthday. So she didn't even have to buy her own car. Jenn is mooching off someone right now, enjoying not having to spend money on the child that was just an inconvenience for her. Yolanda's car, I couldn't remember. I thought it was Yolanda. Because I think originally, yeah, that's right, because originally I thought it might have been Juan's vehicle since he was pretty much gave Jenn the townhouse. But his birthday didn't match, but Yolanda's did. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a business write-off. So Jenn's got everything handed to her on a platter. Yeah, exactly. Dad's condo, mum's car. No wonder she couldn't hold a job. She didn't need to. Yeah, that's what it looks like, because obviously she had to drive Maddie to school because she was out of area. So I would imagine that's why Yolanda bought it for her. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know they've moved. I didn't know why they'd moved. They've moved out of the area. I would have to look it up because it's so long since I looked. But that house was definitely sold. I had wondered if they'd moved closer to Stephan. But given the amount of money that they were sinking into books and those damn root beer barrels and all his commissary, wouldn't surprise me. I could imagine Jenn just basically turning around and just burying it in her conscious, like not thinking about it. But I really hope that every year when Jenn reaches her birthday, that she has the worst birthday ever. I really hope that it haunts her every birthday for the rest of her life. Yeah, I'd say so. Although at least it sounds like they've come to terms with what he did and they're not protecting him anymore. Yeah, that's a good question. Either that or Jenn scammed on that. Maybe it was Juan's, although it would have to be connected to the vehicle, wouldn't it? So you're probably right, it would have to be Yolanda's. Right. A small channel. Oh, a channel that you weren't familiar with had a small foyer. Would that have been allegedly speculating? Or allegedly something? Because I know she was still putting in a few foyers. But I could imagine there being a foreclosure. I'm just going to, hang on. I'm going to have a jump into Pacer later today, see if there's anything that comes up, because usually when you get foreclosures and stuff like that, it's quite possible that it will pop up. Oh, okay, cool. That makes sense. Here it's issued in the person's name as opposed to connected to the vehicle. Because after I had my surgery on my ankle to put it back together and put a pin in it, I had one for a while. So yeah, they are. They truly are. Okay, a bit more of this.
Stephan returned at all?
No.
So you were there from, just so I have my times kind of right, so you woke up around 7 or 8. You saw Stephan, because you helped him with the dog, because he was letting the dog out, right?
Yeah.
And then did you go back to sleep, or were you just kind of in the room?
I laid back down and went back to sleep.
Okay. And then, do you remember what time you woke up after that?
I believe I set my alarm for 9 a.m.
Thanks for that, Grover. I've just jotted that down, so I'll look for that. Again, she's not giving a direct answer for when she woke up. I believe I set my alarm for 9 a.m. Welcome in, Summer Breeze. Good to see you in here. So, again, we get evasion from Jenn. My question is, did she actually go back to bed? Although we know from the flatmates that it was Stephan who was doing laundry, the whole morning's out of kilter. And welcome in, Rosario. The morning just doesn't fit together. Massive gaps. Yeah, I've had problems with Apple Pay before as well. I know. It does sound awfully familiar, doesn't it? Jenn woke up probably around 7 or 8. She's not quite sure. Now, didn't Jenn also say in one interview that, oh, well, it was light outside when she woke up or something? Maybe Daniel's been going through my Maddie playlist and getting some tips. Who knows? But so vague. And it's not just the not knowing what time, but when you get Jenn talking about Sunday night, she's got, I came up with 5 different versions of her interaction with Maddie on the Sunday night. I personally believe that Maddie was either already rugged, like already asleep, essentially, or that he'd already done something before Jenn got home. I do not believe that Jenn interacted with Maddie on the Sunday night. Yeah. It's just nuts. These people, it's all the same.
Gotcha. So it would have been around 9 a.m. that you woke up. And in that time you didn't see Stephan return at all? Okay. You left around 9:30, and then Stephan called you around 10 to say he got home?
Yeah.
Cool.
This is what I love about Detective Acosta. He's sharp. He's throwing Jen's narrative back at her, but he's changing details to see if she picks up. So he's throwing all the times at her, and then he's like, Stephan called you around 10 to say he got home. And she's like, yeah. Well, when we look in the documents, it actually was, I believe, 10:18. But she's just switched off because she's not worrying about confirming the narrative because it's a narrative. So ironically, the one thing that he, obviously they would have verified it later, but the one thing that he tested her out on, she still goes, yeah, because she's not focusing on a narrative that is based 100% in fact, in my opinion. I honestly think that she was either passed or she was drugged out. What we have to take into account is the reason I think that it was more that she passed later is you've got to consider rigor. For him to have put her in the seat of that vehicle at 7:30 in the morning, It takes 12 hours for full rigour to set in. He drove around with her like that for 2 hours before transferring her into the trunk at around 9:30. If she was already deceased when Jenn got home, that might not have been so easy for Sterns. So I'm thinking that perhaps he had rugged her. She was passed out, and then something happened later. It traumatizes me so much thinking about it. This is Florida. I know it's February, but it's still Florida. And when you're talking about the trunk of a vehicle, that's... yeah. I think... oh gosh, summer breeze, wow. I think she had to have been in a fair amount of rigour for him to have been able to strap her into the seat, the passenger seat. And for the security guard just to think that she was asleep. So I agree with you. Which makes it so disturbing. Yeah, I think it happened after Maddie got home. But I don't believe that Jenn saw her that night. But I do believe that well, the thing is, she gives different versions. In another one, she talks about having a pub sub, and the detective picked up on the fact that that was a new narrative and asked her if, anyone was with her when she had that. And she's like, no, I just sat in my room and had that. Whereas earlier she had said that when she got home, Stephan and Maddie were in her room. Oh, yeah, and the watching Sister Act, somehow fitting that in. There's like so many different versions. Yeah, I think the pub sub is probably closest to the truth. She came home. She didn't worry about Maddie. She just had her pub sub, took her meds, and went to bed until Stephan came downstairs and woke her up and told her what he had done, in my opinion. Not possible. She had to have been in like 5 alternate realities to achieve all the different things. Completely impossible.
Got it. Okay. Did he say anything else aside from she didn't want to go to McDonald's?
About her, no. About his morning, yes. He had tried going to the vape shop when it opened right after he dropped her off from school and waited, but they never opened on time, so he came back, hung out a little bit, and he came home around 10 and then went back out eventually to the vape store to go get some vape stuff.
So he left after 10. What time did you get back home?
And then we just launch into Stephan's narrative. Yeah, they really did. Well, that's the question. Which dimension is she in? You know, the thing that keeps coming back to me is that there is still, in my mind, quite a high likelihood that Maddie was pregnant. When you look at the things that were asked of Jenn and her answers, when you look at the account from her best friend, the Reddit thing, I can't 100% turn around and say that I'm confident that Jenn didn't do something. Yeah. That's the big thing though, because Sterns is a narcissist. So I think, you know, his actions too scream guilt, in my opinion. He didn't. He factory reset his phone twice, and he thought that had solved the problem. So I think you know, the balance of probabilities certainly points to Sterns. But Jenn, at the very least, had a hand in the cover-up. No, we've got all the phone data that shows what time she got home, so we know that she did get home at 10:30. But see, the thing is, one of the things with the whole actual story when it comes to Maddie is the whole thing of Maddie was already getting ready for bed. Allegedly, like, Maddie went home and immediately got ready for bed. And the way that comes out suggests that the arrangement was that Maddie was going to come home, get herself ready, and go to bed. And I do think that is what happened, that Maddie got herself ready for bed when she came home. I believe he turned up and he gave her something, and she was out for the count by the time Jenn got home. Yeah, 100%, that's for sure. She started off sticking with the narrative, except for the whole Sunday night thing that kept going south. She kept giving different versions of that.
Today.
Let me check something. I want to check what time my blood work appointment is at. I'll give you more of an accurate time.
Yeah.
I have never been able to come up with a satisfactory answer as to why Jenn was sitting in the car park outside of where her blood appointment was for so long, other than to be out of the house while Sterns was doing his thing. They did eventually, because they downloaded hers and Sterns' phones. At this point in time, I'm not sure. Yep. Bit of leakage. You get that with these kind of people, don't you? Well, lots of that from Daniel, Janie, Jenn, Stephan.
Okay, so my appointment was at 10:15 and it took them 45 minutes to see me. So I didn't get home until 11:15, 11:30.
Mm-hmm. And was Stephan back at that point in time?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I can't remember.
And this lie persisted in every interview. Stephan was not there when Jenn got back from her interview, from her blood thing. She knows it. And yet she, every single time, said that he was. Yeah, exactly. Places like that don't make you wait around. And given that the appointment was 10:15, why did she leave home so early? Because it was only a 20-minute drive. Why did she leave home at 9:30 when she could have quite easily left home at like 10 to 10, still been on time? I also want to point out, welcome to membership, Ange. Also want to point out that there is a point where Jenn and Stephan's phones are in the same location at that LabCorp car park. It's only for a minute or so, and then Sterns heads back to the townhouse. But when you look at the mapping of their phones, it just makes me question if there was a point where Sterns, the reason Jenn waited in the car park was because there was some sort of interchange between them in that car park. We'll never know because it never went to trial. It could have just been that it's the same route, but it's something that has always bugged me.
And then what did the day look like after that? That's fine.
So I did my blood work, then I came back, and then I just waited. I waited for the rest of the day until 2:30 to leave. I wait in the car line, so I'm first in line to pick her up.
Yeah, that car line can be vicious.
Now, what's interesting? Oh, okay. I will. I'll do a live stream with after I finish this particular interview. I'll pull up those maps and go through them because they're actually really interesting. They track Jen's phone, Stephan's phone, and Maddie's phone. And there was quite some interesting things that came from them. Now, this version, just looking at your different LabCorp places, it's pretty good here. There's only, I think, really one place, like, that has offices, places all around Victoria, and they're pretty consistent. Jen's narrative here has got a massive hole in it. So he wants to know what her day looked like after that. And she's saying that she did her blood work and then she came home and she just waited for the rest of the day until 2:30. The thing with that is that down the track, we get the addition of Maddie's phone into the narrative. Because Jenn took Maddie's phone with her to the school to pick Maddie up. And so the issue with that is that Maddie's phone was sitting in Maddie's fake bedroom. And when asked about it, Jenn said she was straightening up. She was doing a bit of organising, tidying up, straightening up, and she spotted Maddie's phone. So he's just asked her, what did your day look like? And she's saying, I just waited. Wouldn't you say, well, I came home and I needed to do a bit of straightening up. Maddie's clothes were all over the floor, so I went and put them in the laundry basket, which we know Jenn didn't. But you would expect to hear a description of, well, I came home and I just did some housework for a few hours and then I left at 2:30 to go pick Maddie up. Because, of course, you need to be at the front of the bus line. The 2:30, I have no doubt that she wanted to be on camera. I think it was part of the plan for her to be at the front of the bus line so her car could be extremely visible, so people would think it was business as usual. Yep, that about sums it up. Yeah, and not just that. The shoe was in Jen's room. The shoe could have slapped her in the face almost. It was so visible. And yet Maddie's phone was out of sight unless you went into her room and actually turned around and saw it sitting on the dresser. Welcome in, Ariel. And it's not like the top of that dresser had nothing on it. It's not like it was just, someone walking into the kitchen, sitting the phone on the kitchen bench, so that you walk into the kitchen and there's this phone in the middle of the kitchen bench and it's not meant to be there. Jenn doesn't strike me as an overly observant person. So her actually spotting Maddie's phone in Maddie's room seems unlikely. And the other thing that bugs me with that is that when you trace the movement of Maddie's phone, Sterns took the phone downstairs that morning before he took Maddie out of the house. And he placed it in that location. That phone did not move until Jenn went and picked it up just before she left to pretend to pick Maddie up from school. That's not the behaviour you would expect. Because if you were going around and you were cleaning up and you saw your daughter's phone, and if, according to her, the routine was that if Maddie left the phone, she'd take it with her after school so Maddie would have it when she picked her up. If your plan was that you're going to take that phone with you to pick up your daughter after school, you wouldn't just leave it there. You would move it with your stuff so that when you left, you would remember to take it. Good to see you in here, Sam Brown. Yeah. Sterns did laundry. Jenn straightened things up. Although, when I look at the photos from Maddie's room, I don't see any evidence of anyone straightening anything up. Yeah, exactly. Princess said exactly what I was saying. She straightened up, but there was still laundry on the floor. Oh, yeah. Helicopter mum. The phone was powered off just before the alarm was... now I'm just trying to remember the times. It was powered off shortly before the alarm should have gone off, because we have an account from the flatmates or from Jenn. We have an account from someone about what time the phone would normally go off. So it was powered off around 7 a.m. And then it was taken back downstairs around 7:30ish, and it was turned back on. So the other thing with that is that Maddie's best friend had sent her messages when she didn't turn up at school. Now, anyone who owns an iPhone knows that if your phone is sitting somewhere and you pick it up, your notifications are going to pop up. You don't press a button or anything. The notifications are going to pop up. So Jenn was observant enough to notice Maddie's phone sitting on that dresser, but not observant enough to notice a message from Maddie's best friend saying, "Why aren't you at school?" Because that would totally screw with the narrative, wouldn't it? You wouldn't want to actually admit to seeing that.
So you left approximately 2:30.
Yeah.
And pickups around 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now when you got there at 4, then what happened?
I waited in the car line for about 10 minutes.
And now we get the narrative that just sounds like this recitation. Yeah, welcome in, Michelle. I don't think any of us are ever going to get over it. I don't think any of us are ever going to come to terms with Jenn being allowed to walk free. If it wasn't for Jenn, Maddie wouldn't have died. Stephan had access to Maddie because Jenn allowed it. And Jenn definitely helped Sterns out with the cover-up. She knew. No, it was I'm just trying to remember from the documents. I remember that it was turned off. No. I think I remember now. It was turned off before the alarm was due to go off. It was taken downstairs. It was put in her room. And then when Sterns returned to the townhouse and Jenn was still at her blood appointment, and you've got the phone pings to prove that, that's when the phone was turned back on. So the phone was turned back on, like, I can't remember the time frame, but it was that around the time when Stephan rang Jenn at like 10:18. And now I'm going to have to look that up, because I wonder if Jenn told Stephan to turn the phone back on. But you are right. It was turned off just before Maddie's alarm should have gone off. And then the data shows that it was turned back on around the time that Sterns was back in the house and Jenn wasn't. That's nailed it. Welcome in, Bobby England, and thank you for the jewels. That's the base of the matter. They had a case wrapped up against Jenn that they could have easily prosecuted. At the very least, aggravated child abuse or aggravated child neglect. I can't remember which one it is right now. They had data that would have supported a case against Jenn as an accessory after the fact. But, you know, they were too busy. It was just easier to just brush it all off. Yeah. She really latched onto that, didn't she? That was like her little glimmer of hope for Jenn. Like, oh, this is convenient. Let's keep going with this. So let's listen to this recitation.
And she never came out. So I thought maybe I missed her. I couldn't remember if I told her I was picking her up from school that day or if she had to walk to the office.
Okay.
So I went to the office to see if she made it. She never did. I drove around a little bit.
Yeah, the step counter is how we know that he took the phone upstairs like the night before, brought it down, and that it sat on that dresser until Jenn collected it in the afternoon. And I will go through all the phone stuff because I believe that it does show Jenn's guilt in my belief. Yeah, I will pull up some more. I did grab a few of them last week. I'll pull up some more at the start of the next one because I think I'll have to go back into Paula's. I think I actually deleted most of the ones from the house. I was so angry after Sterns was sentenced. I was so angry about all that I didn't think I would be able to cope with coming back to Maddie's case. And there were just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of crime scene photos. And I deleted pretty much all of them. So I'll probably have to go into Paula's Patreon and re-download them or download the main ones. So I'll do that for next week. Honestly, the way she's just reciting here, I don't believe that Jenn could be considered innocent. When a parent sends her child upstairs to sleep in the same bed as a 37-year-old man so she can get a good night's sleep, and that results in the child losing her life, just that alone says that Jenn Soto is not innocent. And there's so many things that stand out with her statements. And that's the thing that so many of us are baffled about. She should have, at the very least, been charged over that. You know, I think the problem is, was it a Hunt and Tagler and that? And I know I keep getting confused. They're Osceola County, aren't they? And then it was moved to, no. They're Orange County and it was moved to Osceola County. I think had the case stayed in Orange County with Acosta, Tagler, Hunt, I think we would have seen a prosecution against Jenn. Because when I listened to those three detectives, they were totally on, they were all over this with Jenn, all over this with Stephan. But then when it seems like when they realised that it all happened at the townhouse and Osceola County took over, it just seems like it just slid. And I think that's the thing where it all went to crap, in my opinion. Exactly. I really wish it had stayed in Orange County. Because I had 100% confidence in the three detectives that covered this case at first. When I listen to their interviews, they are brilliant. And Orange County just doesn't compare. And I don't know if it's they just got so much on that they just didn't want to put the work in, or what the situation was. But yeah, Detective Kevin O'Malley was good. I will give him that. You forgot the bit about the locks on the door. Not only was it like a cold cell, but it had locks on the door. I do think that is at the base of the problem. I think that because the case got sent over to Orange County, which county had did Osceola County have Kaylee Anthony? Because I know that was the same area. I can only speak in terms of what I saw with the three detectives that we had the interviews from with this one. The Kaylee Anthony case, that was a big screw up. And I still don't understand how she got out. She should never, ever have gotten off those charges. But it was that area. But I can't remember offhand. Oh, right. So Orange County was Kaylee and Casey. That was long before like Moira Tagler and Acosta and Hunt, though. They were definitely onto Jenn straight away. I think I saw there was an interview with Moira Tagler, and I played it. This was leading up to the trial. where she was essentially saying that her goal was to become a detective, or it was, the goal was some sort of promotion. And I was just looking at it and going, she deserves that. Because I think she is exceptional. And I think, were she a male in that field, she would have been promoted really quickly. Yeah, that was long before Tagler and everyone. They really dropped the ball with that case. She gave the case to them on a platter. How could you possibly not win a case with someone who lied so much? Yeah. I just thought seeing Moira Tagler in action was, she had it completely. Good question. That's a really good question. I should know. My brain's not giving it up. But again, same area, wasn't it? Yep. Uh-huh. Also, Orange, I thought I was leaning towards saying that, and I thought I wasn't sure. But yep, thanks for that.
Okay.
I drove around a little bit, looking for her. I went back to the school. The school was closed at this point.
And there's an outright lie. So again, I know, it drove me crazy too. Does that make sense? I'm going to say all these things. Sunny place for shady people, that's for sure. So Jen's narrative here is really lacking, because she's giving the impression that what she did was, after waiting 6 minutes for Maddie to get out, even though the kids in the car line are not the first kids that get out, meaning that Maddie should have only been trickling out, or if she was delayed, possibly still coming out. So she waited 6 minutes. Why you would only wait 6 minutes after sitting there for an hour, I don't think anyone could ever answer. But then she claims that she drove around a bit and went back to the school, but then the school was closed. Well, the truth of the matter there, what she's trying to sound like she was, being proactive here. But the truth of the matter is, she hightailed it from there, claiming that she was blocking the car lane. The 2-lane drive. She claims that she was blocking the other cars, so she had to leave. She left because she didn't want them to be radioing the office. She didn't want them to look at the tag on her car and call for Maddie from the office and have someone come out and say Maddie wasn't at school. So she left to avoid that. She wanted to be on camera, but then she hightailed it before they could possibly put any call out for Maddie to come to her car, because that would have ruined the whole plan. She went to Yolanda's, pretended like Maddie didn't come out, got told it's too early, Maddie wouldn't be here yet. So she went and she parked on the road between Yolanda's office and the school, because she wasn't going back to the school to be spotted. So she parked on the road, waited, and then went back to Yolanda's office. She did not go back to the school of her own accord, in my opinion, because she did not return to the school until around the time that Letitia was calling 911. Because basically you hear it in that 911 call where Letitia is saying, my mother and my stepsister are going back to the school. And this is after you heard her asking Jenn what Maddie was wearing. So they did not return to the school until after Letitia was making that 911 call. And I don't believe that was Jenn's idea at all. So this is just an outright lie. Yeah, said they wouldn't let her in. Was it Yolanda in her interview said that they actually went in and asked at the after school thing? So again, complete lies. The school pickup line lasted for 10 minutes per school policy. So she took off after 6 minutes. Lasted as in like after 10 minutes they look at the tags on the cars, because I remember looking it up and it had a thing that basically said cars in the pickup line have to have a tag thing hanging on the mirror or something, and that if a child hasn't come out, that a staff member will call the office. So after 10 minutes, all children were gone. Right. So Jenn left after 6 minutes because after 10 minutes, it would have been really obvious that she was still there. Right. So much circumstantial evidence. It wouldn't take much just to go through the interviews that she did. Just for starters. It's mind-blowing that she got away with this. Yeah. And that's the frustrating thing. William J. is actually a good attorney. And the attorney that was with him as well, she prosecuted the case. The guy that lived at the I've got to be careful because I don't think I can mention the theme park, because when I do, that's one of the reasons that my Maddie videos get suddenly, we can't monetize it. You know, there's like a housing area that's got the same name as the theme park, and it's meant to be this happy family housing area. And there was a guy who ended his family, and I can't remember the Ears theme park. I like that, yeah. The female attorney that was working with Will J, she worked that case, and that guy got convicted. Todd, yep, that's the one, the Todd case. Thank you. She worked the Todd case, and she was exceptional. He did too. Sheer laziness. He was more than capable of getting a conviction. He was more than capable of Jenn being prosecuted, but sheer laziness. Yeah, because Sarah Boone was just too damn arrogant. She got what she deserved, that's for sure. So let me see. She rejected it. He had to do his job, and she got leave without pay. Yeah, he did. It was just sheer laziness.
I wanted to speak to somebody at the office to see if anybody could tell me if she had been there. I think at this point I had called, before I went to the school, I actually called her best friend and I said,
Bingo, thank you. Celebration is where the Todd family thing happened. My brain was not giving any of that up. I have looked into that case. I've watched a lot of the trial footage because Court TV have got it. But I just completely forgot. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I think a jury would have hands down convicted her. She should not be free. I'm just going to run this back just a little bit. This whole BS of I missed her, I didn't see her, complete utter BS.
Looking for her, I went back to the school. The school was closed at this point. I wanted to speak to somebody at the office to see if anybody could tell me if she had been there. I think at this point I had called, before I went to the school, I actually called her best friend and I said, with you, I can't find her. She didn't walk to the office and she wasn't at school when I went to pick her up. She said she never made it. She's it's a first or second period. And I'm like, what do you mean? I dropped her off. We dropped her off close to school. And she said she didn't make it to first or second period. I said, please check with the rest of your friends. She did. She got back to me, said none of them saw her today. I emailed one of her teachers. Her teacher texted me her attendance for the whole day and told me she wasn't in school at all. That's when I knew something was wrong, and I freaked out.
Okay. We get she never made it, and that comes out so much. She didn't make it, she never made it. The thing that stands out with me here is the way that up until this point, Jenn's narrative has been very slow. Very, very slow. With very few details. And now, because she's actually getting to the part where she actually did things to create an alibi, and that's all this is, because we know this happened. She rang Maddie's best friend, dumped all this on her, expected her to follow up with Maddie's friends, emailed a few of the teachers to create an alibi. So she's going to go into details. She's going to go into full details about this. Whereas the rest of the day, what did the rest of your day look like? Oh, I just waited around at home. No details there. None at all. Even though later on she claims that she was straightening up and she found Maddie's phone. But all of a sudden, now that we're into alibi mode, we have every teeny tiny detail. Yeah, same here. The rage is never going to go for me. I still become emotional when I think about how much Maddie was betrayed. It's just wrong. It's so wrong. Oh yeah. As if Jenn ever did any straightening up. We have accounts from Jenn where she's talking about how she was always getting on to Maddie about tidying her room. We have an account from Maddie's best friend where she basically says that that Jenn would ride Maddie, and like Maddie would be on the phone to her friend and Jenn would be telling her to get off the phone because her room's messy or something like that. Jenn probably never set foot in Maddie's room. Aside from that one day when she went in to collect the phone after Stephan told her where it was. In my opinion. But the level of detail that she's going into here, that just makes her look guilty as hell. Because the rest of the things are so vague. But because this is about her wanting to appear, she's playing the role, the concerned parent. Well, if I was a concerned parent, what would I do now? Well, I'd drive all around, which she didn't do. I'd go back to the office, which she did 2 hours later with her mother. But then you get this really detailed information of everyone that she contacted. I'd be the same. I'd be the same, that's for sure, honestly. There's some cases, this one in particular, where I think, thank God I don't live in the States, because I'd get myself arrested. I really would. I don't approve of that sort of thing. I don't approve of the sort of things that Bullhorn Betty does. But I also understand the rage. Yep. And that's the aggravated part. I think it's termed aggravated child endangerment or I think it's aggravated child neglect. And I think the terminology is endangerment resulting in death. I don't want to think about that. That's a scary thought.
Okay. Is it typical to walk to after school?
If I'm working, yes.
And where I mean, in relation to the school, like, is it a close walk, long walk?
It's a very close walk.
Okay.
And I know I'm not getting far through the audio, but I just really want to hammer in with this stuff with Jenn. This is another place where the narrative falls apart, because she's saying that if she's working, that's when Maddie walks to Yolanda's after school. But when she's asked about why Stephan was there, she makes it really, really clear that he was there to help her out with Maddie so she could spend more time with Maddie. Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm surprised that she's still going. I know she got a lot of support and a lot of encouragement with Gabby's case. And I think people created a monster. But she's sooner or later it's going to come and bite her in the ass bigger than it already has. So Jenn has established in other interviews that the whole point of Sterns, according to her narrative being there, was because she wanted more time with Maddie. She claims that she spoke to Maddie on the Sunday night and they have this conversation about Macca's. Now, if, as she claims, that the whole point of Stephan being there was so she could have more time with Maddie, then she would have told Maddie she wasn't working on the Monday. The things, the actions leading up to the Monday afternoon all point to a situation where Maddie would have expected Jenn to pick her up. Not a situation where Maddie would have gone, oh, I've got to go to Yolanda's. So this claim of, I thought she just might have thought that she had to go to Yolanda's is BS. But not only that, Jenn was at the front of the car line. She was there an hour before the school finished. Did she really believe that Maddie was going to slip past her? Did she really believe that Maddie would have not come out and seen her car at the front of the car line? Logically, it makes no sense. That was amazing, wasn't it? Between them, they completely blocked that door. And he stood there the whole time like some bodyguard. And you know what's really disturbing? When you look at the timeline, and Jenn supposedly knows nothing, but he would have left really, really soon after the cops left to go to Stephanie's house. Stephan would have left not long after that in Jenn's car to head back out to St. Cloud. But apparently Jenn knew nothing of it. And according to the flatmates, Jenn's car key is actually kept in Jenn's room, not out in the living area. Definitely. Maddie's flaky. She's not normal. She forgot her phone. She just had this vague moment where, even though it would have been obvious, where she just must have thought she was going to Yolanda's, and she didn't, she would never notice my car sitting at the front of the car line, even though apparently she didn't want to be dropped off at the school in Stephan's car because it was a what do you call it? Jalopy or whatever they call it. I can't remember what that word was. It'll come up soon. So apparently Maddie is aware enough to decide that Stephan's car, which actually wasn't Stephan's car and he'd never taken it there before. Hoopty, thank you. apparently Maddie was aware enough to be conscious of not wanting to be seen in Stephan's car, but not aware enough to come out of the school and spot Jenn's car at the front of the school line. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think Maddie's meltdown when she didn't want to go home, when Juan took her for burgers, I think Jenn hadn't told her that Stephan was coming that weekend. And I think Maddie found out that Stephan was coming. And I think she probably had a bit of a meltdown over that, in my opinion. It's a red flag. The moment you get a parent victim shaming their own child, you know that's a red flag and something is terribly, terribly wrong. If she truly believed Maddie was missing, she's not going to be victim shaming her. All the things that make a parent just want to protect their child are going to kick in. If you truly believed your child was missing, as a mother, every single protection instinct in your body is going to kick in. And that includes protecting your child's reputation. So all this negative crap that she was saying about Maddie is a huge red flag, not just because of it shows what the relationship was like, but because as a mother with a missing child, the brain doesn't go there. The brain goes to, she's a good child. The brain doesn't blame the child. The brain is too busy worrying. Well, yeah, everyone told me that that's like an old person description. When the first time we heard that, and I was like, I've never heard that before. And people were saying, well, that's more like something that Deb and Chris would say that Stephan has picked up from them. It's not something that Maddie would have used, which is also a huge red flag. Not once. Not once at all. And that's always a red flag. I agree. Well, given that that was the first time that he had taken that car, his Honda was still sitting down at Northport. But they forgot that part of the narrative when they were throwing it together. Because when you listen to the way Jenn talks about it, she makes it sound like it's a long-term established thing. That car's so embarrassing for Maddie that she always made sure that he dropped her off miles away from the school. Even though A, he never dropped her off, and B, he had never brought that car up to their place before. It's the things like that that really make Jenn look guilty. in my opinion. Oh, right. Hoopties was a 90s term way after Deb and Chris, but way before Maddie. Deb and Chris would have only known it because Stephan said it. Right, gotcha. Thanks for that.
So typically in the morning, if, or I guess before Stephan moved, did he live with y'all?
Sorry, for next week, I will run this through the silence remover. I hadn't realised there was so much redacted stuff. Getting there slowly. Okay, we've got nothing on the audio right now. It's probably a good spot to stop with the audio, I think, and I'll fix that up for next week. I'm just marking this so I know where to go from. So many red flags, so many lies, and a lot of things like the hoopty. It's all, and I think that's the failing of their story. It's concocted from the perspective of Jenn and Stephan, as opposed from the perspective of a 13-year-old. So they say things like that they kind of project them onto Maddie. But when you think about it, like Hoopty's a classic example. It's not what you would hear from a 13-year-old. I think I just cannot fathom how Jenn is not locked up. Exactly. We're only probably not even we might be more than halfway through this interview. We haven't got very far, though. And there's so many lies from Jenn. Or deflections. Or Soto size everywhere. And I wasn't counting today. I forgot to count. And I want to say, it's always, I want to say, or I'm going to say. If a parent truly believes their child is missing, the story's not going to change. You're not going to have screw-ups like she decided last night that she didn't want to go to Macca's. You're not going to have the victim blaming. Because the maternal instincts should have kicked in big time when she realised her child was missing. But apparently she's got no maternal instincts, so instead she's just doing the victim blaming. It's so many things here with Jenn that just, to me, could have been more than enough. And this is before we look at any of the documents or any of the digital forensics or anything like that. You just look at the door codes for the hotel. The night that Stephan went down to Northport. Jenn was up and about around the same time that Stephan actually left the hotel. but she's apparently oblivious to it and doesn't know anything till the following morning. You look at the timing of when Chris and Stephan get back to the hotel. That's a red flag for me. I just think there's so much here that just would have been so easy to convict her. Exactly. You've found the words that I was trying to find. If your child's endangered, if they're missing, all you're thinking about is the things that you love about that child because you're so afraid of losing that. That's why you hear, like with Parker, you don't hear anything in that statement from his parents that's any criticism of his behaviours. Nothing at all. It's all about who he is as a person. And there's another one that I was looking at quite recently, and the parents, it was all very much about how wonderful their child was and how caring their child was. We don't get any of that from Jenn. I wish there was a lawyer that would just go, okay, I'll go pro bono for you. Because honestly, I mean, maybe they're like, well, she's got no money, she's never going to work. Her parents buy everything for her. But then if they did, she might have to, forget about like the Botox and the getting her nails done and stuff like that if she's got to pay them off for the rest of her life. Everything. I thought that going back to this, that maybe over time I would come back to it and think, wow, gee, I was really biased. But it's not the case. Everything still points at Jenn as being complicit in this. She knew. She knew what was going on before he ended Maddie's life. I mean, the Woody Allen statement, right there, that's an admission. But when you listen to her bumbling over trying to explain a timeline that doesn't fit, doesn't match, the contradictions in her story, she was in on this. Oh, you are so true. You're so correct. You're so correct. It's her soul. That's the thing. I think when you come back to it and you start looking at it with fresh eyes, and you're going back to the beginning, knowing all the additional stuff that we looked at after looking through these interviews, suddenly she looks 100% more guilty than before. She did. And not only that, every interview, she's defending Sterns. Every interview. Never Maddie, it's always Sterns. Welcome in, Artemisa. Good to see you in here. it's never been about Maddie for Jenn. I liked in the immunity interview where he basically called her out on that. But how did she walk free of this? If we can all see this, if Will J could see it and call her out on it, this just comes down to lazy prosecution. She's rotten to the core. Maddie was such a beautiful child. And if you watched my video that I put out a few days ago where I was looking at the trauma connections with Maddie and also with Lily and Jack, Jenn basically caused this child trauma from an early age, in my opinion. When you listen to Stephen Young talking about how Jenn would just kind of mentally check out and he'd have to look after the children, she was emotionally neglecting Maddie from day one. Maddie's trauma was just piled on. It was the lack of any sort of love from Jenn, the distancing from Jenn, and then 5 years of Sterns. And yet she gets to walk free. Oh my gosh. Calling Chris gets out of the interview where they've shown her the photos. Later on says, what was it, something like, essentially says that they weren't evil. That wasn't evil. She gets out of the interview and calls Chris and tells him to get a lawyer for Sterns. You kidding me? Most mothers I'm on Patreon. I have case documents for Maddie, for Lily and Jack, for Kylie Rodney. I will continue to add to that. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yep. You have a good memory. Yeah, that stuff that he did to her, that's fine. But she didn't believe that he did anything evil to her, as in unaliving her. Like, mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. I'm surprised that those detectives that they managed to keep their cool when she said that. Must admit, the Casey Anthony case does kind of make you nervous. Oh yeah, that's for sure. But I think they had two very capable prosecutors who could have built a rock solid case against Jenn had they put their minds to it and put the effort in. Maybe there is a fear of another Casey Anthony case because that really didn't look good. But I think I'll help you out with that later on, Summer Breeze. I'll send you an email to help you to figure out how to do that. Patreon's really hard to navigate. Sometimes I get lost. So true. They just botched her case up completely. And don't forget, we've also got 15, 18-year difference or something like that. I honestly think that they could have had a slam dunk with some of the charges against Jenn. And I think a jury would have hated her as much as we do. It just breaks my heart that she got away with all this. Because if we can see it, then a decent prosecutor could easily build a case against her, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here because it's heading towards lunchtime for me. And also, now that it's warmed up a bit, the dogs are starting to stir, so I'm going to have chihuahuas wanting to go outside any minute. What I was saying at the beginning of this live stream, I'm going to switch this to actual Mondays so that while it's Monday here in Australia, it's still only Sunday for most of you. So next week it'll actually be on Mondays. So it'll be Maddie Mondays. So it'll be my Tuesday, but it'll be Monday evening if you're over on the other side of the world. So I will definitely be coming back to this next week. Yeah. They could have got her behind bars for some period of time at least. I'm so disappointed with this case. Yep. Excellent. Well, go get some sleep, and I will be definitely coming back for Maddie Monday next week. And tomorrow I'll be back with some more Lily and Jack. And there'll be probably some videos coming out this evening. But for Maddie, definitely I'll be back next week for Maddie Monday. So on that note, thank you, everyone. Please hit the like button on the way out. That helps immensely, especially with this one because it doesn't get a lot of attention. So I would greatly appreciate that. So on that note, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.